You open your eyes to a warm amber haze. The air smells of baked mud, faintly briny Nile water, and yesterday's barley. Somewhere in the distance, a donkey complains, a sound like a broken wooden flute, while the river slaps gently against the reed bundles that pass for boats. Welcome to Egypt. Not the Egypt of pyramids and glittering pharaohs. No, you've landed somewhere quieter, dustier, much slower. This is the Egypt of unfinished walls, crooked sandals, and the eternal hum of flies. You're not Cleopatra. You're not even someone who knows Cleopatra. You're just you, hungry, tired, and wondering whether it's worth walking all the way to the marketplace for a handful of lentils. It's not, but you should still stay awake for now. There's plenty to see before the sun gets too hot, and you find yourself asleep again in the shade of some weary wall. You probably won't make it through this day, but that's okay. While you're still here, go ahead and like this video if your eyelids are starting to feel a little heavier. Gently tap subscribe. No rush. And if you're still alert enough, leave a comment with your location and the time it is wherever you are. We're curious who's dreaming with us. Now, let's ease into tonight's journey. You begin your day with your feet pressed into dry riverbank silt, brushing sand from your calf-length linen wrap. The cloth's itchy but breathable. Everyone wears linen, except the dead. They wear better linen, strangely. The sun's already high as usual. Egypt didn't believe in slow mornings. There's work to do, grain to count, sandals to repair, and for the third day in a row, you're wondering what's for dinner. Maybe lentils again, maybe beer, but definitely not fish, not for dinner, not for lunch, never. In ancient Egypt, despite the Nile being packed with fish, many Egyptians, especially the higher classes, refused to eat them regularly. Fish was food for the poor, the desperate, or the impure. Priests in particular were strictly forbidden from touching it. You pass a man gutting a tilapia on the bank. He looks guilty, not because he's doing anything illegal, but because the smell sticks to you. Fish was thought to cling to the soul, spiritually unclean. But it's also just a little gross after mid-morning, especially in this heat. Fishmongers were often required to live outside certain towns due to the stink. Even the word for fisherman in some regions was used as an insult. Historians still debate whether these fish taboos were truly religious or just a clever way for the rich to avoid eating what the poor could afford. You move on, a little hungry, a little unsure. There's a dry sweetness in the air. Figs from the stall down the road. Dinner can wait. There's always beer. The road into town is not paved. It's a suggestion, a memory of what used to be firm underfoot. Dust kicks up with every step, coating your ankles in a soft beige powder. You look down and realize your feet are the same color as the path now. Congratulations, you've blended in. A boy runs past you with a pot balanced on his head. He's barefoot, grinning, and somehow clean. You feel vaguely insulted. On the left, there's a wall with hieroglyphs. Not a tomb wall, not even official, just graffiti. A bored teenage scribe practicing his symbols, scratching out declarations of love and weird jokes about a guy named Mena who allegedly can't count past 7. Egyptians wrote graffiti all over public spaces. They weren't always serious. It wasn't all prayers and kings. Some were love notes, some were insults, some were quite literally ancient memes. You squint at one that reads, Beck is slow. Beck smells. It's about 3,000 years old, and yet it feels timeless. Ancient Egyptian kids played a game involving flicking pebbles into a hole in the dirt. If you lost, you had to carry your opponent's sandals publicly. The boy who passed earlier is now arguing with a vendor about onions. You hear the word fish thrown in. He looks offended. Some Egyptologists argue that onions were used as currency in certain cities. Others think they were just wildly overpriced. The street grows louder as you enter the marketplace. Voices call out, garlic, copper hooks, fresh barley. Someone yells about foolproof crocodile repellent. You decide not to ask. In the corner of the square, you spot something strange. A man roasting catfish. There's no line. There's never a line. You keep walking. The marketplace smells like sweat, herbs, and slightly angry cheese. Someone offers you a date. You accept and immediately regret it. It's too warm, too soft, and sticks to your teeth like betrayal. The sun slants lower. Time moves like honey, and your feet start to ache. Again. You take shelter under the low shadow of a bakery. The woman inside fans the fire with a bored kind of rage. She doesn't acknowledge you. You don't mind. The air smells of burnt wheat and old flour sacks. You exhale slowly. It's quieter here, almost meditative. On the wall behind her, dozens of small loaves are stacked like bricks. Bread is more than food. It's currency, tax, offering, and inheritance. In ancient Egypt, bread and beer were the foundation of the economy. Workers, especially pyramid builders, were paid in daily rations of both. You imagine receiving your paycheck in a crusty lump of barley bread. Not quite direct deposit, but maybe more satisfying. You watch as a boy trades a clay jug of beer for 3 loaves. He haggles with the grace of someone who's done it every day of his life. Egyptian beer was thick, gritty, and full of floating chunks of grain. Some versions were so thick you could eat them with a spoon. The woman sees you staring and, with a sigh, hands you a chunk of bread. It's warm, chewy, and surprisingly sour. You nod a thank you. She grunts. We still don't know exactly what yeast strains they used. Some modern bakers try to recreate them, with mixed results. The bread fills your stomach just enough to calm the grumbling. You lean against the wall. The bricks are warm from the sun. A cart rumbles past outside, 2 goats dragging it like they're doing someone a favor. Someone sings an off-key hymn to Osiris, and for a moment, everything is still. You don't think about fish, or pyramids, or history. You just breathe in the smell of baking and think, maybe this isn't such a boring day after all. It's late afternoon now. The sun tilts just enough to throw golden halos around every dust mote. You wander past the bakery and into the narrow alleys behind the shrine district. The walls here are close, so close, in fact, that they steal your shadow. For the first time today, you feel cool air on your skin. There's a breeze, not a dramatic one, just a lazy whisper. But you notice it because everything here is slow. Even the wind knows better than to rush. You pass a man carving amulets, tiny scarabs shaped from blue fans. He doesn't look up but murmurs, "No fish." You nod solemnly, "No fish." Priests of major temples avoided fish entirely, considering them ritually polluting. Touching one could mean days of purification. Some myths even describe fish as the creatures who ate Osiris's unfortunate bits, which explains a lot, really. There was once a cult in Oxyrhynchus that worshipped a particular species of fish. They believed this one type was sacred while all others were profane. You had to know your fish, very specifically. We still don't know whether the fish cults were widespread or just bizarre local trends. Some scholars think they were ironic. Others aren't sure ancient Egyptians did irony. You duck into a courtyard shaded by fig trees. An old man is napping in a chair made of bundled reeds. You envy him deeply. A cat slinks across the stone floor and glares at you. It knows you're thinking about sleep. It judges you for it. You sit on a bench, feeling the weight of the day settle into your bones. Somewhere, someone starts playing a two-stringed lute, gently plucking out a tune that sounds exactly like closing your eyes. You hum along, quietly, and somewhere in the dusty breeze, you forget all about the fish you never ate. You wake up, unsure whether you ever really fell asleep. The sky hasn't changed much, just a deeper gold now. Everything glows like a memory you're still in the middle of. The fig tree shadows have shifted across the stones. The old man's gone, or maybe he was never there. The cat is still watching you. It has decided you're not interesting enough to move for. You stretch, and your back answers with a dozen polite cracks. It's time to move. You pass a doorway where incense curls out like a question. Inside, someone is praying, or muttering, or maybe just talking to themselves with purpose. You don't interrupt. Instead, you take a long, slow turn toward the docks, where the Nile leans against the land like a tired animal. Boats sway gently, tied with fraying rope and hope. Men shout at each other about barley weights. One is laughing because a fish bit his toe. The other is laughing because that's what fish do. The Nile wasn't just for transport. It was a full economic artery, feeding irrigation, washing clothes, collecting reeds, ferrying goods. Egypt's entire rhythm moved with the river's current. You didn't live beside the Nile. You lived because of it. You watch a boy toss a net out with the practiced grace of someone too young to be tired yet. He hauls it in, slowly. One silver fish, then two. He sighs, and you both understand that they'll probably end up drying on a rock somewhere, untouched. Dried fish was often fed to animals, used as offerings, or crushed into fertilizer. Eating it was often a last resort. Some temple texts seem to mention fish in offerings. Others outright forbid it. Egyptologists still argue whether this was regional or just inconsistent bookkeeping. You linger near the river's edge. Someone nearby plays a slow rhythm on a hand drum, matching the slap of water on wood. You close your eyes for a moment, and in the distance, a barge creaks with the sound of old stories not worth rushing through. You follow the riverbank as it curves like a lazy question mark through the city's ribs. The stones here are smooth, worn down by centuries of sandals and sighs. You pause in front of a wall. It's low and crumbling, but the paint clings to it like memory. Faded reds and yellows, figures in profile, a man with a staff, a goddess with a lotus, a fish crossed out angrily, subtle, that last one. A group of girls walks past, giggling. One is carrying a basket balanced perfectly on her head. You once tried that. Once. It did not go well. They're gossiping about a boy who tried to offer a catfish as a gift. Apparently, it did not go well either. Gift-giving in ancient Egypt was deeply symbolic. You didn't just offer a thing, you offered its meaning. Bread meant sustenance. Beer meant friendship. A fish, well, that meant you hadn't read the room. You turn down another street and find yourself outside a pottery shop. The potter's covered in dust, head to toe. He looks up and shrugs. The kiln's angry again. You nod like that makes sense. Kilns were seen as temperamental spirits. Some workers gave them offerings, bread, beer, or even songs, to keep them from ruining a batch. You run your hand along a freshly made jar. It's still warm. He tells you it's for pickling onions. You try to imagine eating pickled onions on warm bread with no fish. It sounds fine. Some preserved recipes mention fish sauce, but it's unclear whether it was common or just aspirational. Or maybe the scribes were lying to impress each other. You sit on a flat stone nearby. The wind smells like clay and charcoal. Someone's whistling a song you half remember from nowhere. And slowly, again, you begin to forget the day. The light is turning honey thick now. Shadows stretch like sleepy cats across the walls. You reach a street you don't recognize, though it smells familiar, like wet thatch and boiled grain. A woman waves from a rooftop, then goes back to hanging laundry. You wave back. It feels like the polite thing to do. She has 3 large fish laid out to dry. You're not surprised. You duck under a crooked archway and enter what passes for the library district. It's not what you think. There are no shelves, no silence, just scribes arguing about taxes and papyrus scrolls piled like firewood. One looks up and says, "Do you need something copied?" You shake your head. "Then move," he says, kindly. Ancient Egypt had some of the earliest bureaucracies in the world. Scribes weren't just writers. They were power brokers, organizers, and gatekeepers of knowledge. You sit quietly by the doorway, letting the murmur of numbers and names lull you. Some scribes sharpened their reed pens with their teeth. It gave them a distinctive front tooth shape over time, sort of an accidental badge of honor. A scribe nearby sneezes loudly. Someone throws him a handful of barley in mock offering. He catches it, eats it, shrugs. There's debate over whether Egyptian scribes always worked from dictation or invented filler when bored. Several texts trail off into song lyrics halfway through. You close your eyes just for a second. A cart rolls past, a goat bleats, someone drops a scroll and curses poetically. It's all very soothing. You think maybe the bureaucrats had it right. If life's going to be boring, let it at least be organized. You head home, or what feels like home, though technically, it's just a room you've been borrowing from time. The light has cooled now. The gold is turning to blue. Everything's quieter, but not silent, like the world's just exhaled. You pass a boy lighting a clay lamp outside his doorway. He nods to you like you're part of the furniture now. It feels strangely good. You step over a puddle where someone has washed their laundry and maybe their goat. The air is heavy with the scent of crushed herbs, basil, mint, something bitter. Someone's cooking nearby, not fish, probably lentils again. You find your way back to the courtyard with the fig tree. The bench is still there. You sit. The cat's gone, or maybe hiding. Above you, the stars are starting to scatter themselves lazily across the sky. Orion is there, holding still as ever, judging fish eaters across the galaxy. The Egyptians were master astronomers. They aligned temples with stars, tracked Sirius for flood predictions, and mapped constellations with uncanny precision. They also believed that the Milky Way was the spilled milk of a divine cow, which raises more questions than it answers. Some records suggest that fish were considered sacred to star deities in certain cults, but the lines are unclear, and even the stars can't seem to agree. You lean back. Your eyes are heavy. You haven't done anything remarkable today, but you've survived it. You've wandered. You've listened to the wind, watched boats drift, smelled bread rise, and not eaten a single fish. That's something. That's enough. You wake with the soft crunch of a fig dropping beside you, not onto you, just near enough to startle your dream away. The kind of dream that felt like drifting down the Nile with nothing to do and no one to disappoint. The sky is darker now, not black. Egypt doesn't do black, just a deep, smoky blue, like someone painted the horizon with river mud and forgot to rinse the brush. You stand slowly, feeling your joints complain like old bureaucrats. You stretch. Something pops. It's unclear whether it was your hip or a distant frog. You start walking again. Night is its own kind of busy here. Shadows twist across stone walls. Windows flicker with firelight. And from somewhere close by, you hear soft music. An oud, maybe, or a flute made from bone or reed. You follow it, because why not? It leads you to a gathering. A few families, seated in a loose circle. Kids curled against adults, adults curled against stories. An old man is telling a tale. You sit down on the edge and try not to interrupt the rhythm. Oral storytelling was essential in Egyptian society. Myths, history, legal traditions, and even medical knowledge were passed through recitations long before being written down. The old man's voice rasps like a reed brushing stone. He's telling the story of a fisherman cursed by Sobek, the crocodile god. It's meant to be funny, you think, Everyone laughs at the punchline. You smile even though you missed it. Some Egyptian stories were structured like fables, ending with moral lines that rhymed. Others ended with no moral at all, just a long sigh and the phrase, "and that is how it was." It's still debated whether stories about gods eating each other were metaphors for nature, ritual, or family drama. The old man finishes. Someone claps, someone else burps politely. You stand, thanking him with a quiet nod. As you walk away, you catch the faintest scent of roasted onions and cumin. Still no fish. Your stomach growls anyway. Night walks are long, and sleep longer still. There's a quiet path near the edge of the town where the reeds start to whisper again. You follow it instinctively, like a cat walking the same rooftop twice. Your feet feel the shift from warm stone to cool soil. The earth is soft here, pressed down by generations of footsteps and second thoughts. You pass a mud brick wall where someone's drawn a map. Not a helpful map, just a confused series of squares, arrows, and the word "don't" written twice in different directions. Seems about right. You hear frogs croaking in stereo. One stops abruptly, as if embarrassed. A man ahead is sitting with his feet in the water, mumbling to himself. He waves you over and offers you a sip from a wide-necked jar. You take it. It tastes like barley, lemon peel, and minor regret. Beer was consumed at nearly every meal, including breakfast. Even children drank it. It was less alcoholic than modern versions and full of nutrients and, well, sediment. You nod to him in thanks. He grins with the tooth-gap smile of someone who's forgotten how old they are. He says, "The fish are smarter than me." You believe him. Some Egyptians believed that certain fish could predict floods, escape nets on purpose, or carry messages to the gods. You ask him if he ever eats fish. He makes a face like he just remembered something traumatic. "No," he says. "I eat radishes. They don't stare back." Fair point. It's unclear whether some fish avoidance was based on ecological preservation or spiritual symbolism. Some historians suggest it was both, depending on the mood. The stars above ripple in the water beside you. You trace one with your toe. Then you hand the jar back and keep walking. The reeds sway behind you like they're whispering secrets you're not old enough to hear. You find yourself in a field, not a wild one, but not quite tame either, just quietly waiting. A woman is kneeling at the edge, collecting herbs into a basket. She hums softly, a tune you recognize from somewhere earlier. Maybe the bakery, maybe the river, maybe a memory that isn't yours. You greet her gently. She gestures for you to join her. You kneel. The soil is cool and slightly damp beneath your fingers. She points to each plant in turn. Mint for the stomach, rue for bad dreams, papyrus for words. Then she frowns. "Don't eat the fish mint," she warns. "Smells like betrayal." You believe her instantly. Egyptians used hundreds of herbs for medicine, ritual, and food. Healing was deeply intertwined with magic, and doctors, known as SWNW, often worked alongside priests. You help her tie the herbs into bundles with fiber cord. She thanks you with a fig. It's a good fig, cold from the night air. sweet, with just enough resistance to remind you it was real. Figs were sometimes dried and strung into necklaces for offerings. Eating one mid-prayer was considered mildly scandalous. Some medicinal texts list fish oil as a remedy. Others list it as a cause of illness. Scholars still argue over whether this was caution, confusion, or just someone being sarcastic. You stand slowly. The woman is already gone. Only the herbs remain, swaying gently in your hands. You tie them to your belt and head toward the light. The moon hangs low over the rooftops now, fat and lazy, like a full belly after barley bread. You smile. You're not exactly full, but you are enough. You return once again to the edge of sleep, not quite in it, just wandering around its gates like someone who forgot their key but doesn't mind waiting. You sit on a low step outside a home you've never seen but somehow recognize. A dog lies nearby, tail twitching in dreams. You watch it with the respectful distance owed to animals and gods. Someone inside is singing, not loudly, just enough to make the air vibrate like warm stone. You lean back and stare at the stars again. They're still arguing quietly with each other, blinking in slow disagreements. The ancient Egyptian calendar had 365 days and was based largely on the star Sirius. Its heliacal rising heralded the flooding of the Nile and marked the new year. You think about that for a moment. A river that decided when the year began. A star that told you when to plant or panic. Makes a lot more sense than Thursday. Some Egyptians believed your soul had 7 parts. One of them was your shadow. Another was your name. Lose either and, well, things got complicated. You whisper your own name just to check. Still there. We're still unsure how ordinary people kept time. Some used water clocks, others used the sun. Many, it seems, used gossip. The song ends inside the house. A light dims, a clay lamp sputters out, taking its glow with it. You sit a moment longer, letting the quiet pool around you. You don't feel tired exactly. You feel slow, settled, like a jar of beer left undisturbed just long enough for the grains to drift downward and rest. You stand, stretch, yawn, and with one last look at the sleepy world around you, you step quietly into the next shadow. You walk slowly now, partly because it's night, and partly because there's nothing left to hurry for. Even the insects have gone quiet, as if they too are respecting the pace. You wander through an orchard. The trees are spaced unevenly, crooked in content. Their branches stretch like fingers too lazy to grasp. Pomegranates hang above you, swollen and drowsy. One drops behind you with a soft thud, startling a nearby mouse. You pause to admire the stars through the leaves. They look older here. A boy is sitting cross-legged by a shallow ditch, stacking stones. No reason, no goal, just stacking. He sees you and offers a small wave, then goes back to work. You sit down across from him and do the same. Stone, stone, balance, breathe. Egyptian children were taught from a young age to mimic adult work, stacking, carrying, mixing, often through small games. It wasn't just play, it was preparation. Your stack collapses. He smiles. You shrug. He gives you a bigger stone. In some regions, it was believed that stacking 5 stones and whispering the name of a relative would help protect them from illness. It also may have annoyed the stone gods, but that was considered a calculated risk. There are theories that early Egyptian games evolved into ceremonial rituals, but no one agrees whether they were sacred or just something to keep the kids busy. You finish your second stack. It wobbles but holds. The boy gets up without a word and disappears between the trees. Your stack stays behind, like a strange, silent little temple to time well wasted. You keep walking. The air smells faintly of dust and citrus. A breeze nudges your robe. You smile at the sky and feel it smile back, in that quiet way only warm air and sleeping trees can manage. A donkey passes you, all by itself. It's wearing a cloth saddle with no rider, no reins, just trotting like it's late to a meeting it doesn't want to attend. You nod respectfully as it goes by. It does not return the favor. The alley you turn into next is lined with closed shutters and discarded pottery shards, each one shaped like something that once mattered. A spout, a handle, the rim of a jar that probably held oil or beer or someone's best guess at perfume. You kneel and pick up one piece. It's been worn smooth by time and weather in bored hands. You turn it over, and there's writing on it. Just one word: quiet. Ostraca, pottery shards used as notepads, were common in ancient Egypt. Scribes, merchants, and ordinary citizens used them to jot lists, copy poems, or pass messages. You wonder who wrote this one. You imagine them holding it, scrawling the word in haste or care. You tuck it into your belt. Feels like it belongs there. Some ostraca were used for venting frustrations, anonymous scribbles insulting neighbors, officials, or even gods. One simply reads, "He has bad breath and speaks too loud." We're not sure how these fragments ended up scattered through alleys and doorways. Some say they were discarded. Others think they were offerings, broken on purpose to seal the words inside. You sit on the steps of a quiet home. It doesn't belong to you. Nothing does here. But no one minds. The night thickens, not darker, just deeper. A soft pulse of frogs and the creak of wood shifting in the cool air. You breathe in. The pottery shard presses gently against your side. And for now, that feels like purpose. You come to a gate, wooden, crooked, open. Beyond it is a garden, not wild, not planned, just growing politely. You step through and walk among the plants. Some you recognize: lotus, fennel, garlic. Others are strangers with soft leaves and strange smells. A woman in white sits beside a low basin, grinding something with a pestle. You sit nearby. She acknowledges you with a glance, then returns to her work. You watch in silence. The paste she makes is greenish. She places a dab on her wrist, nods once, then offers the bowl to you. You try a tiny bit. It smells like grass and river water and mint on a jealous day. She laughs, barely, then hums a note that curls in the air like incense. Egyptians were known for their perfumes and ointments. Some were so prized that specific recipes were guarded like royal secrets. Ingredients ranged from myrrh and frankincense to cinnamon bark and, yes, fish oil in rare cases. She hands you a bit of linen. You wipe your fingers and breathe out through your nose, letting the scent rise behind your eyes. Some temples banned certain perfumes during rituals, as they were believed to tempt or distract the gods. Vanilla, for example, was considered dangerously pleasant. Many perfuming methods remain unclear. Some texts suggest sweating the scent out of flowers. Others mention using animal fat, but no one agrees on the proportions. The woman stands, gives you the rest of the linen, and disappears into the garden. You hold it gently, the scent clinging to your fingers like a memory you haven't had yet. You sit a while longer, and when you stand, your steps feel a little softer, like maybe you've been oiled into the world again. You arrive at a stone platform beside a half-dry canal. It might have once been a dock. Now it's just a place the wind remembers how to touch. You sit, legs dangling. The water below ripples half-heartedly. A frog croaks. Another responds like they're politely disagreeing. You lean back on your hands and look up. The stars are sharp tonight, like someone dusted the sky with crushed quartz. A man nearby lights a lamp and places it on the edge of the dock. He hums a lullaby that doesn't seem meant for anyone, just something to fill the space between breaths. You listen. Ceremonial lamps were used not just for light, but for prayer, mourning, and marking sacred time. The flicker was seen as a conversation with unseen things. The flame dances gently. You try to follow its rhythm, but your eyes grow heavy. Some Egyptians whispered their secrets into lamps before sleep, hoping the flame would carry them to a god or a waiting ancestor. You try it. You whisper, "I'm tired." The flame nods. Some scholars believe lamplighting at night was purely practical. Others think it was deeply spiritual. Most agree that it's both, depending on who's watching. You close your eyes, just for a moment. The breeze drifts up from the canal, damp and forgiving. You don't dream, not yet, but your body remembers how. And the night, it lets you. You're walking again. You're not sure how long you were sitting by the canal, but your legs remember the shape of stillness, and they forgive you slowly. The town has quieted even more. Only the walls remain alert, holding heat from the day like stories they haven't told yet. You pass a shrine, a modest one. Nothing grand, just a stone niche with a painted offering plate, 3 onions, a handful of barley, a folded piece of linen. No fish, of course. Even the gods had standards. Most Egyptian households kept small personal shrines. These weren't for the big-name deities like Ra or Isis, but for local spirits, ancestors, or lesser-known gods of sleep, doors, or well-timed rain. You leave behind a small thing, a fig leaf, pressed flat from your belt. It's not much, but in a world like this, everything counts. Some families believed you could bribe your household spirits with jokes. A bad pun left beside an offering plate was thought to increase your luck. Humor and holiness weren't strangers here. It's unclear whether these shrine traditions were consistent across social classes. Some scholars think they were wildly improvised, more folklore than faith. You linger near the doorway. Inside, someone is whispering a bedtime prayer. Not grand, not rehearsed, just kind. You breathe in deeply, letting it settle in your chest. The street feels thinner now, as if the night has peeled away a layer, revealing something older beneath, a gentler pulse of time. You move slowly. Your thoughts do too. It's not that you're sleepy, exactly. It's that you've entered the quiet between moments, where nothing asks to be remembered, and nothing needs to be explained. Just walk through. You find a rooftop. It isn't yours, but at this hour, roofs are like dreams, shared and silent and mostly ignored. The ladder up is rough, carved from wood so old it probably remembers the invention of sandals. You climb anyway, carefully. At the top, the breeze is gentler, the air cooler. The world spreads out below like parchment left half-written. The Nile gleams in the distance, just barely, a ribbon tied to the wrist of the land. Someone else is up here, an older woman. She doesn't speak, just nods toward a woven mat, then turns back to her stargazing. You sit beside her. Nothing is said. Everything is heard. Egyptians viewed the sky as a living being, Nut, the sky goddess, who arched above the world, swallowing the sun each night and birthing it each morning. You look up at Nut's belly now, streaked with constellations and the breath of wind. Some stargazers believed sneezing while watching Orion meant you'd be visited by a spirit within the week. Others claimed it just meant dusty air. You sneeze, softly. The woman smiles but doesn't look over. There is still debate about whether all Egyptians had access to formal astronomical teachings, or whether most people just knew what the stars told them through habit and song. The woman points upward. You trace her finger. She's found something. Maybe a shape. Maybe a memory. You watch for a while. Eventually she falls asleep, upright. You rest your head on the mat and let the wind tell you the names of stars that have already forgotten themselves. You wake to the softest light, pre-dawn. It isn't morning yet. It's that strange between time where the shadows retreat politely and the birds aren't quite sure if they're late. You leave the rooftop carefully, trying not to disturb the sleeping woman. Back on the ground, the city stretches quietly. No one moves yet. Even the animals hesitate. You pass by the bread courtyard again. No one is baking yet. The ovens are cool and resting, like stones dreaming of warmth. A cat appears. The same one, or maybe just another shade of it. It blinks at you and yawns like a priest refusing to gossip. Cats in Egypt were not just sacred, they were legal entities. Harming one was a punishable offense, and some were mummified with full ceremonies. You follow it, naturally. It leads you to a wall. You remember this wall. The graffiti's still there, still blaming Beck for being slow and smelly. You smile. Time, it seems, has a sense of humor. Some tombs had cat flap-like holes at the base, thought to allow sacred animals to come and go as they pleased, even in death. Some argue cats were honored for controlling pests. Others think they were revered as reincarnated spirits. Both may be true, but the cat's never confirmed. The feline companion vanishes. You keep walking. The city starts to stir around the edges. A broom sweeps, a baby whimpers, a jar clinks into place, but none of it touches you. You're floating, not above things, just gently beside them. You find your bench again. The fig tree sighs with you, and the sky begins to open. Now the sun is only a whisper beneath the edge of the world. The Nile has turned silver, the streets ghost pale. You sit quietly. The day hasn't asked for you yet, and for now, you don't owe it anything. You run a finger along the edge of the pottery shard still tucked in your belt. Quiet, it still says. Still true. Around you, nothing grand happens. Someone stretches on a rooftop. Someone pulls a cloak tighter. Someone snuffs out the last of the lamps, the smoke curling like a question with no hurry to be answered. You realize something, softly. You've spent a whole day in ancient Egypt, and nothing has happened. Nothing you'll need to remember. No battles, no kings, no monuments rising, just bread, water, shadow, breath, and the very specific, persistent absence of fish. Despite their abundance in the Nile, fish remained absent from most temple meals, sacred rituals, and elite households. The taboo spanned centuries. In some funerary texts, fish appear only as obstacles or tricksters, not as nourishment. We still don't fully know whether this aversion was health-based, symbolic, mythological, or just personal taste codified by those in power. You smile. It doesn't matter, really. You've walked the alleys, the fields, the water's edge. You've listened to strangers hum. You've tasted barley in starlight, and you've slept in corners that didn't mind you. That's enough. That's history. That's sleep. Now, let everything soften. You're back where you began, though perhaps you never really left. The Nile still flows, somewhere in the distance. The sun is stretching behind the hills, warming the sky from underneath. And the world continues. Slow, gentle, just the way it likes to be. Your body knows the pace now, the rhythm of dust beneath your feet, the quiet companionship of bread and time, the small, perfect pulse of life happening just outside your eyelids. There's no need to hold anything, no need to know the dates, the rulers, or the precise reason why fish were shunned. It's enough to feel the hush of clay beneath your fingers, to remember the warmth of bread shared without expectation, to imagine a cat watching you fall asleep with disapproval and grace. Tonight, history hasn't demanded attention. It hasn't glorified pyramids or generals. It's just walked with you, talked with you, sat with you until your thoughts got slow enough to forget themselves. So let them fade. Let the fig trees return to shadow. Let the sandals unlace. Let the stars go on arguing quietly without you. You've wandered enough for one night. Let your breath settle like grains in a jar of beer. Let your shoulders forget the day. And if dreams come, let them be simple. Let them smell like mint and old stone. Let them carry you gently, like a reed boat drifting down the Nile, with nowhere to be, and nothing more to know. Sleep well, traveler. The fish will still be avoiding dinner tomorrow.